You are Locked On Bulls Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Chicago on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Bulls Postcast here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. Joe George here with you, and the Bulls win 138-105 over the Washington Wizards on this Friday night. The Bulls move to 18-20 on the season, the Wizards to 6-30. Look, the Bulls get their largest margin of victory on the year. Yes, this win matters. We'll talk about Zach LaVine, his all-star level performance, 5 straight games of 30 points. I really just dominated this basketball game from start to finish for Zach LaVine. Really a positive for the second segment of the show. They didn't play down to their competition after a disastrous performance against the Wizards the last time. The Bulls' last game was not great. Great to see this team rebound and just play much better out the gate. Really led by LaVine and Vucevic getting that thing going early. And we'll talk about the Bulls just attacking the paint in this game. It wasn't just their excellent three-point shooting that led them to victory. It was attacking the paint, which we've seen as a recipe for success for the Chicago Bulls. So they just don't go to enough. So we'll talk about that as well on the show today. So let's talk about Zach LaVine first. 5 straight games of 30 points or more. He gets 33 points in this game, goes 14-21 from the field, 3-7 from the three-point line, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal, a plus 34 on the night for a guy that's playing at an elite level. I've said it a bunch on these shows. This is the best version of Zach LaVine we've ever seen as a member of the Chicago Bulls. This 5-game stretch has amplified that even more. So he's playing lights-out basketball. And this game starts off right away. The Bulls' first 12 points are in the paint, but the first 15 of the first 18 come from Zach LaVine and Vooch. Those guys were rolling right away. He had another 3 early on that give them a nice step back 3, put the Bulls up 13. That's what he ended up with at the end of the first quarter. Now look, they kind of start slow in the second quarter. It's not like they're not coming out the gates, hot there. But we see the Wizards come back in. But Zach LaVine, as he moves up these like kind of records, but it's kind of startling to see where it's not necessarily a negative on the Bulls' history. It's more, a lot of times, an example of modern-day history. He's number 2 all-time in terms of like points per game against the Wizards. But today he gets his 1,400th three-pointer there in the second quarter. So he's just really all about it. And in the second half, he scores for the first 7. So right away, it's just, again, it's Vooch 3, LaVine bucket, and he's just rolling in this game. This was a huge bounce back performance for the team overall, but for Zach to have 5 straight games of 30 points or more, I think it's pretty clear and obvious that Nikola Vucevic is going to be an all-star this year. Another double-double for him tonight. He had a very good game as well, but the way that Zach LaVine's playing, recently will probably help with the voting, I would imagine, just because people are always kind of, this is really when people, we know it, this is when they tune in the most to NBA basketball, kind of the casuals, or just even the fans as the NFL season wraps up for their team, as the playoffs get going, they start focusing on their team. So Zach LaVine will probably get a, all-star push. I don't know if he'll make it, but it's an all-star level performance where you just kind of needed it after the last game. You needed him to come out, and Vooch specifically, and both those guys did that. Vooch tonight, he ends up with 23 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, and they were going to him and LaVine early right away, and that should be what the Bulls do in every single game. Make sure they get going, and then Patrick Williams, Kobe White, Lonzo Ball, Josh Giddey, they can work themselves into the offense as the game gets going. But when they get, 8 for your first 15, it's what you need. And look, this is the Wizards, and we'll talk about it more in the next segment, but considering what their last game was like against the Wizards, I'll take this as an appreciation tonight. It's not a great game because it's Washington. They have 30 losses on the season now, but just can't say enough about what Zach LaVine's doing. And I think what is most impressive in this game for me is, again, Zach is attacking these teams from every level of the court. He's getting them in transition. He's getting them just at the rim in the half-court offense. He's getting them from the mid-range, and he's getting the three-point shot. And the three-point shot, it's not like he's getting these 30-point games, 5 straight of them, with just a barrage of threes. He made 3 of them tonight. He took 7. So it's not like this is the LaVine that we've seen in the past where he's just ripping 10 to 12 threes in a game to get his numbers. He's getting them efficiently. He's getting them effectively. And he's just playing really special basketball right now. It's fun to see a guy go on a heater like this whether it's LaVine or it could be Kobe White or Vooch or anyone, and not just for the Bulls in the NBA. You see a guy score, 30 points in 5 straight games. Like they're just feeling it on a different level, but he really is just seeing, what teams are bringing against him. It feels like a whole different level. They continue to talk about on the broadcast, like his mindset, his approach to this season is totally different. He's not letting the trade rumors, whether it's the Nuggets one that flamed out or whatever is going to come next for him, or the rumors around Vooch. Like they continue to, for the most part, play their best basketball. And yeah, they have their duds, as we've discussed on the last show after the last embarrassing performance. So they do have nights where like it's not up to par. And this is kind of what we were talking about in the last postcast show, if you were listening towards the end there, where like this just can't, what happened in the last game can't keep happening. And I think that that's where someone like Zach LaVine has to step in when you're playing a team like Washington and just kind of assert his dominance in the way that he did tonight, and just being clearly the best player on both teams. And they were going to Vooch early too, which is huge. I think it opens up this offense so much for Kobe and Giddey and Patrick Williams and these guys. Who Patrick Williams obviously didn't have a great night for the Bulls against the Wizards, but Lonzo Ball had a, season high with 3-pointers in this game. He ended up with 4 on the night, and his jump shot continues to look better and better. His only 7 shots were 3-pointers tonight. Didn't take anything at the rim, so he goes 4 for 7 from the field and the 3-point line, gets his 12 points. He continues to play also great defense. We saw another patent, steal, pass down transition to Kobe White for a layup, and just continues to impact the Bulls in such a huge positive way defensively. So it is the Wizards. I know, I get it. It's not like this is some world beater team you're beating, but considering you lost to them again the last time you played and you had a bad performance in your last game, I appreciate the fact that they didn't play down to their competition tonight. And we're going to hit on that more next, because I was tired of it after the last game. So just more about the start of this game, what they needed to continue doing, and really what we just saw from the first half of the Bulls, and really the second half too, because the Wizards never had a shot at this thing. Like once they, in that second quarter, they had a little bit of a run. They got it back down to, a 5-6 point game, and then the Bulls pulled away from it, and they never gave them a chance to get back into the game. So we'll hit on that next here on the Locked On Bulls postcast on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Are you tired of the endless waiting, wondering, and worrying about your taxes? Well, now that's a thing of the past. You see, taxes don't need to be complicated or stressful. TurboTax is here to change the game by matching you with the TurboTax expert who can get to work on your return right away. No more waiting for answers, no more wondering if you're missing out on deductions. Whether you've got one form or 20, TurboTax experts give your taxes their undivided attention, while you get real-time updates on their progress, so you can focus on what really matters. You won't have to lift a finger, but you'll get the peace of mind knowing that your taxes are being handled by the pros. Ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert, who's ready to take your taxes off your plate so you can focus on your day. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. So I've said this a couple times already. Yes, it's the Wizards. Yes, this is a really bad basketball team, but the Bulls are fighting to get back to 500. The Bulls, as constructed, are trying to stay where they're at in the playoff race, trying to stay as a playing team. Kind of obviously Philadelphia, the closest team to them right now, continues to sputter at 15-21. Frankly, like by the time the deadline gets here, I'm not even sure. The East is so bad below the Bulls. I'm not even sure when they blow it up if they're necessarily going to miss the play-in tournament. They'll get knocked out early if they blow it up, but it is ugly when you look at seeding 11 through 15 right now. I mean, the Philadelphia 76ers are 15-21. They can't get out of their own way. They've won 6 of their last 10, and the Bulls have won 5 of their last 10, so you're kind of on the same pace, but just feels like Philadelphia can't get things going in the way they want. So tonight's game. The last game the Bulls played, the most frustrating part was it was a pathetic level performance where they're just not playing their best. They're playing down to competition. We saw this the last time they played the Wizards. We saw it when they played the Hornets and had to go to overtime last week. So a night like this, Friday night, you're in Washington. What is this game going to look like? How are the Bulls going to respond as a basketball team? And they responded in a really good way in terms of just not playing down to their opponent. It's something that has plagued the Bulls for really Billy Donovan's tenure and much of Zach LaVine's tenure, I would say, where they're just not up to snuff when it matters against these really bad basketball teams. So I appreciate that a night like this, that if you're going to take the time on a Friday night to watch the Bulls or hang out with us here or listen on audio on Saturday in the Locked On Bulls audio feed, that like we're not having to watch the Bulls lose to the Wizards on a Friday night. Like, just think about the fans. No, I'm just kidding. But this is what you need to do in these games to avoid starting so slow, because that's really the ultimate problem, right? When they play these poor teams, is they start slow. If they're not making their shots, they let it, compound into a multitude of issues. But tonight, the Bulls as a team shot the ball very, very well. I mean, they were locked in from the three-point line, really, where it just felt like everything was going their way tonight. Even there, obviously, at the end, when you've got the backups in, Modest Buzelis is hitting a couple threes. They go 23 of 49 from the three-point line, 46%. I'm going to take 14 free throws. Still a number that I think we haven't talked a lot about on this show specifically, that I'd like to see go up if it can. But they have 55 rebounds. So they out-rebound the Wizards. So they're out-efforting them. They have 39 assists on 53 made baskets. That's an incredible ratio to have. Another game over 30 assists. They've had so many of those this season. So they're playing really good team basketball. They get 11 steals, 7 blocks. They're just all over the place. 24 fast break points as well for the Bulls tonight. So this was just the throttling from beginning to end. And this is what I just expect to see more of as a fan of this team. Like when you're playing the Wizards, when you're playing the bottom of the barrel, if you're playing a team like the Magic, who yes, they got Banchero back, but are riddled with injuries. If you're playing the Philadelphia 76ers, who can't get out of their own way and have their own issues, like you just got to start faster. And I love that what I love the most, and we'll talk more about this in the next segment, is that the first 12 points of the game for the Bulls are in the paint. So they're not coming out, they're not just ripping threes, they're attacking in the way they should. And I think it's been pretty evident over the last week of Bulls basketball that if they attack the paint, the shot on the outside opens up for it. And that seems so obvious to any fan or person watching a basketball game, that if you just attack the paint more, attack the rim, like things are going to open up on the outside. And I think that's what we saw from the Bulls tonight. So I love that they started attacking the paint. I love that LaVine and Vuce had 15 of the first 18. And that's really when Lonzo Ball started getting going. And then look, as the Wizards are coming back and you're not scoring the ball in the second quarter, it raises the red flags that we've seen with the Bulls in the past, where they're not shooting the ball super well. And that's really what the start of the second quarter was. Are they going to respond, or are they going to fold? And in past games, whether you're playing a good team or a bad team, the Bulls have been a mixed bag of that this season. Like we've all seen it, where sometimes they get that lead right back up, and then sometimes all the other team starts to run away with it. Like you think back to some of these big deficits they've overcome, they've actually been competitive in these games early on, and then the other team would run away with it, and the Bulls have to claw their way back in. The other part of this game too is like Jordan Poole was on a heater tonight. I mean, that first bucket he made, you could tell he was playing with a ton of confidence to start this game. Probably, I think we would classify as irrational confidence for a guy like Jordan Poole, but he ends up with 22 points. So this was just an overall good basketball game for the Bulls. Specifically, I think when you look at forcing the turnovers and passing the ball. Early on in the first quarter, we saw a couple of these possessions where they're really just, it's 3, 4, 5 passes to finally find the open guy. And I think my favorite kind of set of plays from tonight's game is there was the LaVine step back three that put the Bulls up 3. Lonzo Ball, he then swatted Jordan Poole like crazy. I guess that put him up 12, sorry. And then Zach LaVine's coming back down the court. Josh Giddey's sitting there in the corner. Josh Giddey hits the 3, and it put the Bulls up 15. Vuce was feeling it from the three-point line too, but they were just playing great team basketball in this game. So this is what you're supposed to do. Like, this is what is supposed to happen when you play a bad basketball team. We're not supposed to be stressing about going to overtime against the Hornets or watching Washington get their 5th win of the season or 6th win of the season, whatever it was the last time the Wizards beat you. So just glad they didn't play down to the level of competition that they need to. And again, it all starts with LaVine and Vuce, getting them the ball early, attacking the basket. It just makes life so much easier for the Bulls. And again, Lonzo Ball continues to play really great defense too. And, I didn't even mention this guy yet, but Jalen Smith had a phenomenal night as well. He was shooting the ball really well. When his three-point shot's going, it really also changes things for the bench unit. He has 15 points off the bench, 3 for 4 from the three-point line. Him too, he obviously loves the top of the key or the top of the arc right there, dead center, lined up with the basket. That's clearly, Jalen Smith's sweet spot. So when he's going too, you just know things are going right for the Bulls in every single way, and you beat the crap out of the Wizards. So congratulations on the win. You moved to 18-20 on the season, but just can't say enough good things, at least in this specific game, about Zach LaVine. Again, 5 straight games with over 30 points is an impressive stretch, no matter who the opponents are, no matter when the season's played. That is something that is an impressive stretch. His longest of his career, and he hit his 1400th three-pointer. Also the Bulls' largest margin of victory on the season. So this is really the best game they've had, at least against a bad team. 41 points in the third quarter, 36 points in the first quarter itself. So they were out and running in both halves, which is something also I think we've seen the Bulls struggle with a lot this year. So it's not just the first half struggles that often is a huge problem for the Bulls. A lot of times they come out slow in the second half too. That's where I feel like we see a lot of those Billy Donovan early timeouts. So to have such a strong first and strong third quarter, that's what matters most. So let's talk more about the Bulls attacking the paint, because I think that it's just so clear from Kobe White to Zach LaVine to Josh Giddey, obviously using Nikola Vucevic. We just saw a lot of it again in this game where they're not settling for three-pointers. They took a healthy amount, but they made a ton. But early on, before they got the three ball going, they were using the paint as their friend. So let's talk more about that next year in the Locked On Bulls postcast on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about that you were paying for twice? It's definitely happened to me. We've all been there. I had a few subscriptions I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year in 2025. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. One quick note from this game that I think we've been kind of seeing slowly play out, but really until garbage time. Also, we definitely have seen that Modest Buzelis has fallen far out of the Bulls' rotation at this point, which is not a surprise. He's not played his best basketball recently. That's why we've seen him do a little bit of stints there with the G League. But 16 minutes on the night, a lot of it in garbage time, most of it there in garbage time. 3 for 4 from the field. Two of his shots were three-pointers. Had a big dunk. They mentioned on the broadcast, if you haven't seen it yet, the Bulls tweeted out his dunk before the game. This kid's got nasty hops. I continue to want to see more of the Modest Buzelis, development. Honestly, even not to be nitpicky here with, what in a game like this, but I would have liked to see him, as you have so much control of this game in the third quarter. I know you don't want to take players out of rhythm, and you just want to kind of build this lead and, make sure you can rest guys in the fourth quarter like they did. As Stacey King said on the broadcast, the best version of rest management is just get a huge lead and then don't play there in the fourth quarter. But could have liked to see him get a little bit more run there again, but probably just the reality is where we're at with Buzelis this season, as even games like this, he's really just going to be kind of a garbage time guy until he can get his shot back going. So hopefully tonight, even though it's minimal minutes, it's, shots mostly going up in garbage time against the Washington Wizards. Hopefully that's something that can translate for him. Because when you think about what we're going to talk about here, attacking the paint, that's a guy that we love to see attack the paint. He's trying to put guys every single game, it feels like still, when he's out there on a poster. He was one of the ones that went after Wemby. Obviously, Kobe White's the only one that got him in that game. But look, when the Bulls' first 12 points are all in the paint, you just tell, like, as it's happening, that this game's going to be different for the team. And it's like, I hate that we have to keep focusing on this, but there's been a lot of times this year where we've seen the Bulls have bad nights from the three-point line, and you look at their opponent, they're shooting just as poorly, but somehow the Bulls are down by 15 to 20 points. And the reason for that, honestly, is that when you look down at the box score and you see points in the paint, there's a huge margin of difference. So I love that the Bulls started this game attacking the paint. Coby White continues to attack the basket more aggressively than he was early on in the season. They're using Vooch more. LaVine, as we talked about in the first segment, he's not relying on deep twos or threes to get his buckets. He's going after, pretty relentlessly, going towards the bucket. And then in transition, where they had 24 points in transition tonight, a lot of that still feels like it's largely led by Lonzo Ball, just getting the Bulls out and running and moving up and down the court, and then not settling for the bad threes in transition. Like, the reason why they're outscoring the Wizards by so much in transition is because we didn't see as many, no offense to Coby White, terrible Coby White shots where he's got numbers and instead of attacking the bucket, he's just taking three-pointers for a really no good reason. So really, I think maybe the best positive part of this game, besides not just playing down to their competition, besides the fact that Zach LaVine played at an all-star level and continues to shoot the lights out, just the fact that it seems like this style of basketball is, I wouldn't say they're changing it. I think they're adjusting it a little bit. It's like, I don't know, I could be wrong, and I don't know what the numbers, the advanced numbers will tell you, but just from watching the Bulls play, it just feels like that trying to take as many threes as humanly possible in a game is just slowing down just a little bit. And even so, on a night when they're not shooting the ball well, obviously that was not the case tonight, they're attacking the rim more. So that's a huge, I think, just win for, I think, us as fans. Is like, because when they're just bricking shot after shot, I mean, what was it, a couple weeks ago? They started 1 for 9, 1 for 10 from the three-point line. Like, I don't need to see that. I need to see 12 straight points in the paint to start these games. So more of that, please, from the Chicago Bulls. And look, again, it's the Wizards. I get it. But if that's a mentality change that's happening with the Bulls, and that's what I'm hoping for it is the most, is that it's just the mentality, the coaching, they're just stylistically just kind of moving away from everything has to be a three-pointer and just letting Vooch or anyone else on this team go to work in the paint. I mean, and Vooch, again, just like, I can't say enough about him, especially with the Golden State Warriors, rumors that are out there. It is kind of strange hearing, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but like, I'm curious. You guys can leave a comment on the YouTube channel later on if you're listening in the audio feed. I do still feel like it's strange hearing, maybe this happens more than I realize, but to hear Stacey King, Adam Amin, Casey Johnson talk so openly about, two guys on the Wizards and Bulls tonight, was it Valanciunas and Vooch, openly talking about how, they would, either one of them would fit around Steph Curry and other members of the Warriors. It's very strange to me. And definitely is a signal, I think, like kind of like inside baseball here. The Bulls are definitely trading these guys because they would not, I don't think, be allowing the announcers to have these open conversations about, especially now that it's owned by the Bulls, having these open conversations about what Vooch would look like in Golden State as the Bulls are just playing a basketball game. And they're not even really doing it in full-on garbage time. They're kind of having this conversation. I think it was in like the end of the third or early in the fourth quarter. So just kind of interesting. Like that does feel like a signal to me of for sure is what to come. Almost like they're selling the product of trading Vooch there to Golden State. And they're right. Like, he would be a great fit, but it'll be a bummer. Like, that trade definitely did not work out the way we all thought it was going to. And I'm looking forward to whatever this next chapter of Bulls basketball is, and hopefully it's not going to keep them kind of in this middle ground. But Vooch is another guy, like, I would say more than Zach LaVine, honestly, because this entire season, these double-double numbers are just absurd. He just continues to, he passed Michael Jordan in Bulls double-double history, I think it was. They put the graphic up. I hope that's correct during the game today. So he just continues to have really positive performances night in and night out. And look, in the last game, he's over there kicking the announce table, punching it because he's so pissed off about how bad the game's going. So he wanted to have a good night itself. So Vooch, LaVine, season high, 3-pointers for Lonzo Ball, largest margin of victory. So the Bulls get a really easy but good win. And the reason why it's a good win, again, is because that's the Wizards, but we know what the Bulls typically do, and that's play down to their competition. And they didn't do that tonight. So that is, I hate to say a step in the right direction because it's a one-game sample size, but I'm just glad they didn't have another dud after the last game and the performances that we saw against like the Hornets and the Wizards. So that will do it for this episode of the Locked On Bulls postcast here. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We're here going live for 30 minutes or so roughly after every single Bulls game, after every Bears game next season, 2025, after every single Notre Dame game. So we got one more of those. The national championship game will be live for about an hour, recapping that one, whether they play, as we're doing this live, the Texas-Ohio State game is going on. And then we'll be here for every Cubs game as well. All of the Kyle Tucker home runs that we will see this year. We'll be here live on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channels. Hit that subscribe button. Come hang out with us. And if you're watching on YouTube, remember, you can find the audio of this show as well on the Locked On Bulls audio feed on Amazon, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, you can find it. So that will do it for this episode of the Locked On Bulls postcast. We will talk to you on Sunday, a noon game, or not a noon game, I think it's like a 2 o'clock game, as the Bulls will take on DeMar DeRozan and the Sacramento Kings. So we will see what Zach LaVine does against his former teammate in that one. So for now, thank you for watching. We'll talk to you next time on Sunday. Peace.